I'm not going to stop doing this, because to me, happiness is more important than being 100% safe. Life isn't meant to be lived safely. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Brandon, back with another video on this beautiful 58-degree, clear skied, sunny, perfect day here in Southwest Florida. And today we're going to talk about overcoming your fear or anxieties about riding motorcycles. Whether it's your wife, your girlfriend, motorcycles are too dangerous, I don't want you getting hurt, seeing the news, bikers killed every day, anyone you encounter, basically in every possible scenario, telling you about their uncles, brothers, cousins, wives, stepdaughter that got killed on a motorcycle. So before we get started, let me know in the comments how you feel about this. Have you had to overcome anxiety or fear of riding yourself? And what do you say to your loved ones when they have an issue with you riding? We're gonna get suited up here, take a ride on my 2021 Harley-Davidson Street Glide Special. By the way, if you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any content. Let's hop on a bike and talk about it. Man, I've been so used to bopping around on my little Sportster bobber. This feels like a whole different animal. I like having the different type of bikes to ride. Definitely like the Street Glide a little bit better when it's cooler like this. Got a little bit of a windy day today too. All right, loaded topic for today, and I haven't really heard many people talk about this. Honestly, it comes up all the time. If you're in any kind of riding community or circle, you know a guy who gave up riding because of A, he got in an accident, or B, he's got a family. Those are probably the top two reasons. We'll see if this guy's bike, bro, that thing is so sick. Hell yeah.
Nice bike.
I appreciate you, man.
Very nice. What year is that?
This 21. You ride?
I do. I own a 2024 Breakout.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the back tire on them things.
So do that, the performance, the specs.
What color did you get?
I got the Blue Burst.
Oh yeah. And what was your name again?
Jonathan. I'm Jonathan.
Jonathan?
Yeah. So
Cool.
You have a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, we gotta ride sometime, man. For sure. I want to ride that Breakout. Take care, man.
I'll hit you up.
Yes, sir. I did want to let y'all know about my website. We've got Motorcycle Save Lives, and for the streets, got to represent for the Street Glides. Hoodies and t-shirts available. www.brandonhart.com. I'll put up a QR code as well for those of you watching on TV. Just scan that code, get your merch, help support the channel. So first and foremost, there's a whole lot you can do to really mitigate the risk off the bat. Number one is training. If you haven't gone through an MSF course or a riding skill course, it's mandatory. You got to do it. And I'm just going to bring my own personal experience into this. Y'all know how I got started into motorcycles. I was an idiot, okay? I was 21 years old. I had never even ridden so much as a dirt bike in my entire life. What'd I do? I went out and bought a brand new 2005 Suzuki GSXR 600. Gixxer 600 for my first bike. Zero riding experience. I got into it for the wrong reasons. I just thought it was cool and I wanted to be cool. And I learned real quick that it scared the living shit out of me. So what happened? That bike just sat in a garage. I think I maybe put 500 miles on it in years. I never got my riding license. Never took any courses. I was afraid of it. Had some close calls in traffic. And I thought, this is it. Like, this whole motorcycle thing, maybe it's not for me. That kind of ruined it for me off the bat, just because I didn't have that experience and I didn't take the time to really learn. You're going to be in situations where you have to react quickly, especially in traffic. Other people are unpredictable. And now, one thing I don't recommend doing is telling a lot of people. Because I'm going to tell you right now, most people are just going to give you horror stories and just facts about accidents and crashes and everything under the sun to dissuade you from getting one. But you got to think about what you want. And that's where risk versus reward. You know, if you really enjoy riding, how important is that to you? Next, you can also increase your safety by wearing helmet, gear, leather, gloves. I've got it all on today, but I'll just be honest with y'all. I don't wear everything all the time. I prefer a full face. So at minimum, that's where I'm at. But you got to choose your risk level. And I think that's up to everybody individually. What risk are you willing to take? Hey, if you don't want to throw a helmet on, that's cool. That just means you accept the risks. I got no problem with anybody making their own decision. I was browsing through Facebook the other day. I'll see if I can find this video to put up. And we've all seen those, whose fault was it, motorcycle or car? And so this guy was on a bike just like I am. And you see how this left turn is coming up here? This left turn? He went to turn left here, but there was already a car that had cut him off in that lane, sort of came around behind him. And everyone blamed the car, and yes, legally, the car should not have been in that lane before the line. But I had a thought on it, and I got blasted on the post. And I said, although I think legally it's the car's fault, the rider, instead of just looking in the mirror, you should be looking over your shoulder every time you switch lanes, no matter what. And they're like, well, he did what he had to do. All he had to do was look in the mirror. And my point was, well, if that's all he had to do, why did he get run over? If he had looked over his shoulder, that's a life-saving technique. I think one woman went as far as saying, she said, and I quote, he shouldn't look over his shoulder. That's even more dangerous because you'll lose your balance and fall. And at that point, I was like, well, this person clearly has no experience on a bike. Knowing that turning isn't going to knock the bike over. Turning your head is not going to knock that bike over unless you're traveling at an extremely slow rate of speed. And even then, as long as you're giving it gas, like a U-turn, you got your whole head popped around. But anyway, I was called a troll and I just gave it up. I was like, all right, people aren't going to listen to me. But that's a perfect example of something that is taught in riding school. But just know the risks. In my opinion, the reward is so much greater. Guys, the feeling you get when you ride a bike and it's just you, it's the wind. You can feel that change in temperature from mile to mile. You have different smells every few miles. And you just feel free. I don't know how else to explain it, but there's something about being on a bike that has me forgetting about the world. And I just ride, and my problems seem to go away. And sure, I shouldn't do it, but if you're angry and you crank that throttle and you know, have a little fun, I don't know, just that feeling. It's something that can't be explained. I think you can only feel it if you ride. And so what I always said, you know, I mentioned earlier in the video about having the girlfriend or wife that's against you riding. And my take on that is, yes, it's risky, but if riding is one thing that brings joy to your life and can put a smile on your face through difficult times, and I promise you it can, is that any less safe than going out to the bar and getting trashed? To me, it's one of the healthiest outlets you could possibly have. You get in an argument, hey, I'm gonna go take a ride to clear my mind. Spend an hour on that bike, and you come back and tell me that your problems aren't fixed, you're lying. At least for a little bit, you're gonna feel better. I understand your concern, but I'm not gonna stop doing this, because to me, happiness is more important than being 100% safe. Life isn't meant to be lived safely all the time. So you gotta balance that happiness with safety. And it's not something I'm willing to compromise. Look, I've got friends who stopped riding, don't ride as much because their girlfriends or their wives hate it. And I respect that, but that's a deal breaker for me. I'm lucky on my end, my girlfriend loves riding. Meg will hop on the back of this bike anytime, any day. Who needs a therapist when you have a motorcycle? You really don't. I think the number one type of accident in Florida is, okay, I'm going straight here, but you have someone on the other side going the opposite direction. They're making a left turn, so basically across you. And so it's very difficult for cars to see bikes, and they don't always look twice. And so you just have to assume there's a likelihood that person's going to pull out. And if you see that, you can either slow down or start to look for exits, right? Okay, if he pulls out, I'm going to pull off to the right along this line. Okay, there's nobody to my right. I can pull off into this other lane. I can brake. I have enough distance. But you always have to be calculating in your mind what could possibly happen. Also on the right side here, this is a perfect example. Watch, I get in this lane, and there's plenty of side streets, and people are making right-hand turns. Let's say this van, right in front of it, there's a street. It's one way the opposite way, but if it was going this direction, they might not see me behind that van. Because you'd be surprised, you can get away with a lot on a bike. You don't need an entire lane. So even if someone pulls out on you, there's usually at least somewhere to go. One YouTuber who's great at talking about safety and techniques is Dan the Fireman. I recommend watching his content. You always want to be aware that, man, you are not invincible on a bike. And this is probably to the new riders or those without a ton of experience. But don't go out in the middle of rush hour on your first couple months. Ease into it. Don't run the race without stretching. You know what I'm saying? This is a perfect example of there's not a lot of traffic on this road. I can feel fairly confident I can avoid most obstacles because I'm not worried about too much going on around me. As long as I have enough space in front of me, enough space behind me, I can look out for these side streets a lot easier. So it just comes down to the old look. I hate to be cliche, but practice really does make perfect. Look, here's a truck pulling out. He doesn't see me right now, so I'm going in the other lane, giving him as much space as possible. But I really am curious, y'all. If you are out there and you stopped riding for any reason, safety, whatever, what is it exactly that stops you? I'm going to continue riding, And I appreciate each and every one of you for getting this far in the video. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, guys. I think about 95% of my viewers are not currently subscribed. Maybe like this video if you enjoy my content, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss anything coming up. This is always fun. And please let me know in the comments how you feel about this topic. I really want to know. I don't think it's really covered a lot in the community. If you do ride, remember to keep that rubber side down. Peace. I don't know what that was. Peace, y'all.